Hey, listeners, before we get started on today's podcast, I just wanted to take a moment and mention today's sponsors. We have two sponsors today that make this podcast possible. So, first off, today's episode is brought to you by restaurant.com. With restaurants.com, you can save at thousands of restaurants across the country with just a few clicks. Their dining deals range from $5 to $100, never expire, and cost you a fraction of the face value. Dinner has never been easier with restaurant.com. Used for dine-in, takeout, or delivery. Restaurant.com is offering our listeners 50% off their next purchase by going to www.restaurant.com/podcast. That's www.restaurant.com/podcast for 50% off your next purchase. Restaurant.com is the best deal every meal. And our second sponsor today is the Pretentious Pickle Company, located on 190 Water Street right here in Plymouth. And if you're a pickle fan, you're going to love what they have. They do more than just your standard pickles. They have all sorts of vegetables pickled, everything you can imagine, from pickled green beans to pickled eggs, pickled Brussels sprouts, you name it, they have it pickled. It's all made right there on location by the owner, Lorraine. It's phenomenal stuff. And they also have a lot of locally made products from local farmers and bakers and whatnot. So if you're in Plymouth, make sure you check out the Pretentious Pickle Company on Water Street, or you can also check out the Pretentious Pickle online at www.pretentiouspickle.com, and you can place orders right there on the website. So thank you to our sponsors, and now let's get into the podcast. Welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast, and as much as I would like things to be returning to normal, actually here in Massachusetts, they're kind of starting to restrict things again, so we're still on Zoom, but because of that, we can reach out to people beyond our area, and today I am with actress Brooke Lewis Bellas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andy. Hey, listeners.
So, because I mean, we're in a weird spot, like, as a country. Things are trying to open up. Some things are opening up. I saw Sturgis is going, the motorcycle rally is going full strength. How is your schedule? Are you actually currently filming and doing that sort of thing?
I love it. So, Andy, honestly, and I love that we got to chat for a bit prior to coming on air because we agreed that we're going to speak the truth and authentic for your amazing show with artists all over the world. And so, it's been an unbelievable experience in many ways. And I say this carefully, both good and bad. It has been incredibly enlightening for my life and career and has made me really dig deep, like later, pun intended, like vamp it out with my Ms. Vampy, where it really has shed light on life, and especially here in Hollywood, where it is in this moment, Andy and the listeners, it's like an absolute ghost town. But let me say this, and again, now we're toward I want to say toward the end of the pandemic, but we don't even know if that's the case until 2021, hopefully it'll end. But that being said, so the beginning of the pandemic hit, and I, first of all, was very grateful to have done a lot of work this past fall of 2019. Unexpectedly, as an actor, producer, as an artist, we all have the ebbs and flows. So I bring it up because I was very blessed to have several projects in the fall, many of which I also produced or executive produced. So it brought me, and this is for all the listeners who are interested in filmmaking and TV making, it brought me into 2020 with a lot on my plate as a producer with my company, Philly Chick Pictures, and the other companies I partner with. So I had residual work coming in that I needed to take care of anyway. So it wasn't that big of a difference for me in that aspect. I also want to share that I actually, and I don't want to incriminate myself in any way with this, but my husband and I were very, very sick in the new year, right after the new year, with 103.6 fever, cough, breathing. Who knows? Who knows? No one tested for this crazy COVID back then.
Right.
So, I mean, I literally was hospitalized for a night on oxygen. That being said, I was down for the count for the first like 2.5 months of the year. And I share that because it's what inspired me to, when the pandemic hit, you know, end of March, I remember distinctly, like March 12th, it inspired me to sit back at my desk at my home office and go, okay, I just lost a couple months of my life and career this year. Beyond just working on post-production from my home office, I need to be creative. And for all the creatives, and I know there are a lot of them listening to this show, we need to be creative for our soul in whatever capacity that is, in whatever that looks like. And so I got on the horn with a director, creator, show creator who I worked with before, who we actually shot a proof of concept for something in October, and Joshua Butler, shout out to Joshua Butler. And so I reached out, held a production meeting virtually. And this is before anybody was doing like the virtual filming. I was kind of like, I say it humbly, like a visionary. And I said, Josh, we both need to stay creative. We both need to keep producing something. Why don't we finish what we started and film everything virtually? So we ended up filming an entire streaming series. To answer your question, I know it's long-winded, but I'm cycling back around.
Oh, that's fine.
Right. We shot an entire streaming series titled Red Rooms, which we are diligently still in post-production on now. And that was we started in March. So to answer that, I was filming. Then I proceeded to get invited to virtually act in music videos. Shout out to the wonderful Billboard artist Fawn. And we did Wait for the Sun, her music video for her song when the Black Lives Matter situation transpired in the world. So I have been extremely busy in that capacity. Now I will say, and then I'm done rambling, I also did a lot of charity work. I was contacted to do a lot of charity work. I did a lot of charity work. I'm a celebrity ambassador for the Breaking the Chains Foundation. Shout out to Deborah Hopkins. She and I virtually filmed a big streaming segment for women with body image and so much of Breaking the Chains Foundation is about eating disorders, body image, self-love. So I'm very active in that. So I have been incredibly busy. Now I just want to wrap it around, Andy, with here I sit. I've now sort of taken a bit of a break from virtually filming because I was so burned out and exhausted because it is, and we can talk about it further if you'd like to, so much more demanding, so much more work. And you know this from producing a podcast or several podcasts, the work behind the scenes is exponential. And people don't always know that. You're shaking your head at me. I see your face. And so it is true. And you can attest to this. And so it's been that much more work when you are your own production team, you know, and never in my life or career did I aspire to be a wardrobe supervisor. You know, I leave that to the experts, right?
Right.
So I'm exhausted. And so now I feel like I'm in this weird, and I want to bring this up, and that's why I wanted to like go in sequential order, and I'm done. I apologize for going so long with it, but I'm in this weird space in this moment, and I've been talking to a lot of friends, and I think we all are in the world where especially the creatives are kind of in limbo, where I'm in a ghost town in Hollywood, like I said. I sit in my beautiful office. I see the Hollywood sign from our rooftop. I am blessed in every way. And yet I'm in the struggle zone of, do I take a film in person?
Right? No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm so grateful. I've been offered now 3 indie films, 2 indie films and a streaming series to act in. And I have passed on all of them. My reps and I have passed on all of them. And I say that with such humility and with like upset because my heart is breaking that I cannot go to set and be with the creatives I love and perform and do what I love the most. But it's a choice that I'm responsibly making for my own self-health, my self-preservation, and my own, whatever they are, fears, anxieties, or more importantly, my own responsibility to myself, to my husband, to the people around me, that I do not want to take a chance with the way Hollywood has spiked to go and be with a 30-person cast and crew and take that risk. So we're really in a very limbo space. Thank you for letting me elaborate on that.
Oh, we're long form just for that reason. I mean, and you said so many things there that I want to unpack. It's like
Yeah.
we Inebri-art plans a lot of local events, and we have people who are starting to reach out to us, and it's that question of, I would love to get back to work, but in the same aspect, is it morally responsible to do so?
That's a great question. And I love, Andy, that you brought up the word morally. And so that is a struggle that I think we are all having. And is it a moral choice? Is it an ethical choice? Is it a political choice? Is it, and for me, and maybe I can offer this to you and the listeners, I'm also a board certified life coach, even though I'm not fully practicing. I practice it in my work every day in my creative work. And so I look at it is it a responsibility? And so I always coach and say, even when I'm producing something to my creative teams, with every choice, there's a consequence. And that people hear that as like a bad thing, but it's not. It's a consequence is a result. It's just, if I choose this, here's the result or the potential result. And so isn't it our responsibility to humanity? Sure. But also to ourselves and our family and the people we're around, to stay healthy and keep them healthy and keep other people healthy.
Exactly. I couldn't have said that any better. I also want to, what was the charity that you said? I just kind of want to roll back to that because I thought that was amazing. The one about body image?
Yes, thank you. So Breaking the Chains Foundation, that Deborah Hopkins is the founder, fearless owner. She in her life struggled very much as a dancer when she was young with serious body image and eating disorders, and started this foundation where you cultivate your inner self-esteem and strength through art. Perfect for you guys, right? So yep. I am a blessed celebrity ambassador. I was chosen a celebrity ambassador probably 4 years ago now. And we do a lot of artistic events that help people, not just women, people with body image issues, eating disorders, self-esteem, body shaming. And I'm very well-versed in body shaming as an actress who is not naturally thin, who is very curvy, who has struggled to stay a certain weight, throughout my career. And so it's something that I'm really a supporter of, along with, I'm such a philanthropist. I always put that on my resume. It's like actress, producer, philanthropist, because I have supported many breast cancer charities over the years that I've been personally touched with through people I care about, and a lot of AIDS research and Feed the Homeless at the Mission LA. So I could list on and on.
That's awesome. And just, it's one of those things, like, I never really gave it much thought. I feel eating disorders, I don't know. And again, this is from a novice. I have no documentation to back this, but I always felt it affected women more than men. And having a daughter who's a teenager, that's one of those things where you're like, okay, this is something that I at least have to be aware of to make sure she's being healthy.
I love it.
And luckily she's a rock star. She's awesome.
She is. How old is she?
She's 16.
Perfect.
Yeah. Which is a very trying time for, I think, everybody at that age. But she's doing a hell of a job. Really proud of her. And to kind of roll back even to that part where you were saying how, like, you felt the need where you had to get back to being creative. I've talked to a lot of people during lockdown or quarantine or whatever you want to call it. And it seems to be a real 50-50 split where some people are really diving in. They're like, oh, I have all this free time now, and it gives me plenty of time to write music or paint or whatever. And there's people like myself who really struggled. Like, I just didn't have the motivation. And strangely, she became my motivation. She's also an artist. And we started to work on a project together. And I posted a couple pictures on Facebook. And next thing I know, we have 3 other projects lined up afterwards. From people asking us to do stuff, and which is really exciting for me because it's not working with my daughter, it's working with another artist, because she's that age where she has smart ideas. But how would you recommend people kind of, if they're in that slump, to get out, or should they even really try, or should they just let it kind of happen naturally?
Okay, so this is such an incredible question, Andy. Thank you. For the listeners more than anyone, honestly. And again, I'm no guru, but I do my best. first of all, let me say kudos to you, because I love that you just shared that. I think that as you know, with my Ms. Vampy character, I did Ms. Vampy's, I did a tween talk show. I've authored a book, Ms. Vampy's Teen Swap. There's a lot of power in your choices. So again, I have no children of my own. My projects are my babies. Mm-hmm. But why I bring it up is I want to give major kudos and props to you, because we need more dads like you who are active in their teen daughters' lives. And please, any dads listening, please be aware and be active in your teen daughters' lives. They need it more than anyone. They need to have their self-esteem, flushed out and built up, and tell them they're amazing, and tell them they're amazing internally with their creativity like you do, Andy, and with their strengths, not just about being pretty or skinny or, so that I want to shout out. It's so important, and kudos to you. Number two, I heard you say that she was your inspiration. Yeah. So I do think that we all need a muse. We all need a muse, everyone, whomever, whatever that may be. I have friends who go to the beach in Malibu and talk to the ocean, and that's their muse. Whatever. I love the word inspire. And sometimes when we're very down, and Andy, I have to be honest, and I'll never say names, I'll be respectful. I have friends, I have associates who I am working with diligently, mm-hmm. who are having trouble getting out of bed in the morning right now, who, I think when we as artists, and I'm guilty of this too, honestly, until I met my husband 5 years ago, I was married to my career. I was married to my work. I was married to my creativity. I was ebbing and flowing and clawing at trying to meet my goals as an actress, as a producer, and you're taking everything you can to stay financially afloat. And the financial part of this is huge, because this is where a lot of people who are out of work right now, all the artists here in Hollywood, all my friends who, don't know how they're going to pay their rent come September. And so that's a big component of this too. All the gurus say, if we are struggling financially, we typically will be struggling creatively. And that is a fact. I'm not about this hocus pocus stuff where we tell everyone, oh, just trust in the universe and it'll be okay. I'm a firm believer of power of an energy of the universe, but I think it takes more than that. And I think it takes an internal strength for everyone to really be fearless, to really go within, to really get crafty. And that is one thing I'm going to pat myself on the back here for the listeners humbly again, but I have always been scrappy. I grew up in the city of Philadelphia, yep. I'm a city chick, right? Then moved to New York City. Now I live in the city of Hollywood, and I can be polished, but I can be down and dirty and gritty. And I always, though, keep my integrity about me. And that's something I work very hard to do. But I think there are ways to be scrappy, be crafty, be creative, and find ways of making money, even at a time like this. Find ways of being creative, even at a time like this. And it's about, it's really thinking outside the box, that old cliche, mm-hmm. but it's true. Look at you, Andy. I bet, I don't even know if you ever thought, and you can tell us, but have you ever thought of creating a creative project with your teen daughter prior to this? Had COVID not happened, would it have transpired in the way it did?
Oh, nothing on that level. When she was real little, I would not buy coloring books. I would be like, what do you want to color? And she'd be like, I want to, color an elephant or whatever. And I would draw the elephant, and she'd sit with me and watch how I drew the elephant. And then she would take that and color it in. So I've always, I'm a divorced dad. So to me, when I first ended up getting separated from my ex-wife, it was the weekends were like, we're going to the movies, we're going here, we're going there. And then I realized that that's not what they wanted. The times that meant the most to them were the times where I just sat and was with them, either playing board games or doing stuff like that. And so I've been really cognizant of like you said, oh, you should always tell them they're great and they're pretty, but I always feel that action speaks louder than words. So it's more of when we're working on this project, I'm like, well, what do you think? What should we do? And I want her feedback. And when she gives that feedback, Sometimes we go with it, and sometimes I give some more feedback, and we kind of bounce ideas off back and forth. It's treating, they're kids, but I can still treat them with respect like adults. And to me, I think that's been what has made our relationship as good as it is.
I love it. I love it. And I think you really, again, I don't want to get into like child psychology, but I will say I remember when we auditioned my cast years ago, 2011, for my Ms. Vampy's Tween Talk, Teen Talk, and In Between Talk. And it was like a streaming talk show for teen girls and tween girls. And so I bring it up because one thing that I've kept with me is when we audition these girls and ask them, rapid fire questions at them and stuff. And like, almost every one of them, when I ask, like, what is your biggest struggle or fear in life? And these are girls that are 13 to 16, and almost like 9 out of 10 said, I'm so fearful of making the wrong choices. And so that's why I then authored my book shortly after about powering your choices, because what you said, Andy, and I love it, and I hear and listen like a life coach, that you uplift her, you allow her to make her own choices. And then I think, I'm guessing, I'm not there with you, but I'm guessing that you then guide her, in a healthy way to the best choice she could possibly make. And so that, again, dads out there, moms out there, that is, allow your children to have a voice, because they have a voice, and you need to support that.
I can't agree with you more. I think that's great. You were talking about this filming virtually of your streaming show, Red Rooms. What does that look like? Are you filming against a green screen? I assume you set up the camera, you pick your own wardrobe, and how does that even work?
OMG, Andy and listeners, it looks like insanity. It looked like insanity. And let me clarify, I try to be humble, but I have to be authentic and professional. I've been at this game for over 20 years as an actress producer. And so if I'm going to produce something at this point, I want it to be professional. So I, partner with professional people and teams and creatives. And so that being said, we were very careful. I know a lot of people are popping out, streaming stuff, quote unquote, and putting stuff up on YouTube. We really wanted this to be something that we could eventually take to a streaming network and real deal. So to answer you, we went above and beyond, and we're still going above and beyond. Josh Butler right now is posting it like a crazy person. And, we both are, but he's doing a lot of the CGI and creatives. So we really had to kind of navigate as we went along. And so, like I had mentioned earlier, you're 100% right. We did every possible thing. In fact, it was so interesting because early on, everybody has an opinion. And early on, even Josh and I, he had suggested like filming on Zoom and FaceTime and then, again, there's so many different variations of even the digitizing of all of that, And so my instinct was to film via Skype. And I'm sharing that because we actually did like a filming test, Joshua and I. And we did an entire walkthrough. And I remember in my home, like walking through with the iPhone and him testing various things and adding in the red filters. And even he has, I'm not a director, I'm not a DP, but I'm acting like a DP, which again, I respect these professionals so much. I don't do this, but he has much more experience in this area than I do. And yet I kind of like, not that I'm saying this in a positive way, like I kind of proved him wrong. And I was like, yeah, Brooke, like, in the end, everyone was in agreement that we shoot this via Skype. So what we did, and I love this story because it was so cool and so unique, like literally, and I'll jump around, when we were literally filming for the couple weeks we were filming, and we really took our time with the process. But when we were filming, I would be in my home and I would be sitting at my desk here with my, I'm trying to think, with my iPad. That's right. Okay. So it was like April. So I'd be with my iPad. I'd be in like my own little video village. I would call him. He would FaceTime me in while he would be at his desk and his studio with all his camera equipment, and I mean good quality stuff, filming our individual actors in their homes So I'm watching, like, you know, for anybody who's been on a professional set, I'm watching in my own little video village on iPad at home, watching my director do his thing with my actor. I'm giving producer notes like I would if I were on a film set. I mean, it's almost comical, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pausing, like once he would break with the actor's performance and like a heated moment, you know, then I would like unmute myself and give producer notes and executive producer notes, and then he'd give it to the actor. It was hilarious. I mean, it was hard work. And then the actor, God bless our actors. I mean, shout out to a team that we assembled that I just don't even know what to say. And again, let me say this. I do believe, and this is where the old cliche in Hollywood, like, you know, this industry is built on relationships. And so had we, I don't know any sane actor, you know, during a pandemic that may take an offer for a film that is, you know, paying a relatively low fee, you know, low budget, and asking a lot of the actors. So I think that's part of your question as well, where, and I can say this even with self-tape auditions now and other stuff I'm asked to do, like to act in a music video, I'm doing all the technical work myself, you know? So you're talking now, and again, back to Joshua and I, we're asking these actors to essentially, you know, be their own gaffer, be their own lighting person, be their own, you know, DP and AC. And for all the filmmakers listening, I mean, it's nutballs. And so it's a lot of work. And so Joshua and I, we did a lot of prep. I have to say that I think we did probably more prep than I've ever done personally. Not, you know what I mean? I've produced so many feature films and stuff, but I mean, in this sense where Josh and I would laugh, we'd have our production meetings, and then we would virtually have to meet with each actor and have them show us their wardrobe closet, have them show right?
Yeah.
Josh would go, well, I need good, and he's such a crazy eye, like he's so perfectionist, and like he'd go, I need to see like art direction. So we'd have to decide ahead of time what area of their home they'd be filming in. And some wanted to get really creative. Can I do it outside in the garage in my apartment building? Can I do it outside on my window, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't have liability with Philly chick pictures of people like falling off their like windowsill and getting killed. You know, I mean, It is funny, right? But it's the truth. And so, and then like everything. So we were, like I said, from costume designer to DPs to, and you're like, to sound people. And it's like, it was a lot. And again, shout out to all crew and all my crews I have hired and worked with over many years who have done such stellar jobs, and I would never disrespect your profession. So, but in this instance, we kind of had no choice. So there was that. And our actors, shout out to David Alpay from Vampire Diaries, Suze Lanier Brownlet from the original Hills Have Eyes and Bambi and Welcome Back, Kotter, Ricky Dean Logan, who I started in Psycho.
I've met him.
Yeah, he's great, right?
He's super nice. He was really nice when I forgot his name.
There you go. Ricky Dean from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And he's in psychotherapy with me. Shout out to Stacey Lane Wilson, our director. And last but not least, the amazing Noah Blake, who is such a pro, who grew up in Hollywood, who was in all the TV shows in the 80s, 90s, you know, Teen Witch, Teen Wolf, Harry and the Hendersons. So this is our cast. And again, all relationship built. And so basically calling in some serious favors, going, guys, you know, I can't pay you what Warner Brothers is going to pay you, and I can't send over, you know, and it was interesting because, and I'm sharing a lot, but, you know, for all the listeners, like literally, and I love our actors are so damn talented, and they all wanted to get like super, super into it, you know, and I had some of them emailing, calling me going, hey, can we get these, like, I looked on this special effects shop, can I get these special effects delivered? You know, I'm going, okay, I'm on a budget here too, but also like, no. And the reason I was a staunch no to a lot of it, oh my gosh, people had like costumes at home. Because again, these are veteran, great, seasoned actors who have been at this game for so many years. So they are just ready to rock. And I really stood my ground as a producer, and I know people got mad at me, but I'm so proud of the choices I made because I didn't want certain people in costume and others not. I didn't want certain people to have special effects and others not. You know, I'm very cautious and conscientious and gracious when it comes to people's feelings, and I wanted, even when it came down to suggestions per character of, and so to shout out without too many spoiler alerts, each person is being held in the deep, dark web red rooms, and these are real, kind of on the along the lines of like, let's say the Purge Anarchy, you know, or where wealthy people, and this is very true, it's almost borderline snuff, where very wealthy people throughout the world pay money to, they're sickos, they pay money to watch people get like brutalized, whether it's psychologically, physically tortured in these dark web red rooms. So that being said, I chose to keep it and you know, sort of nurture Joshua because he had I pitched it and he had an umbrella line story, and I wanted to keep it more psychological torture than physical torture for many reasons. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to do professional special effects. Again, we're not effects experts. So that being said, like some people were like, oh, can we buy these? No, but even to the point where each character needed to be tied up in some way or held down in some way in this red room because they're being held captive. And so we each got to choose what inspired us for our character. Like, spoiler alert, I'm in handcuffs. There's that. So that's an example. So stuff like that. And I wanted to make sure that each person, it was fair. You know, it was fair amongst the actors I don't want one person having some diamond-studded, you know, collar and the rest of us in handcuffs and ropes. So it was really interesting, and it was very challenging for me, and still is, as a producer, you know. And you know, I wish it had been done sooner. We had a deadline and goals for it to be done, you know, 2 months ago, and it's not. And that I bring up only because, again, it's facing all the challenges for people of what is going on with this COVID-19, and people really in their own personal and professional struggles. How do we move things forward?
Yeah, and I would imagine that there has to be some sort of consistency through line quality-wise, because, you know, if you have the guy who's, well, you know, this is what I have in my closet, and the other person who wants to go out and buy, you know, some fancy Elizabethan style dress, they're not going to look like they're in the same movie or show.
Andy. Thank you, Andy. And that I was a fighter for. I am a proponent of, I fight for the underdog. I'm a proponent of fairness. And I love that you just said that, because also think about this, like, shout out to, my dear friend, Noah Blake, and we just were at his virtual wedding Saturday night, my husband and I, which was beautiful he married an actress, Allie Lynn, and she's awesome, and I love her. And so I bring it up because, God bless Allie, Noah chose to do his segment he's the one in his garage under his building, and it was really freaking cool, like against this awesome like old brick wall. It's like, and it was really kind of creepy, like you could tell he was in some kind of mechanical exterior garage thing. I bring it up because, God bless Allie, his now wife, you know, she goes, I'll help Brooke, I'll help in any way I can. So she was so helpful because she was able to rope him and tie his arms down. Like he had nothing. So she was able to wrap him up, tie him up, and then set the camera, and then that way, and then leave him for Josh to direct him. Think about that right there. No one would have been able to tie themselves up. In fact, even me, I should bring me up. Like, if I didn't have my husband handcuffing me, think about that. I can't handcuff once my right hand's cuffed to the chair, I can't handcuff my left, right? So he had to handcuff me and take the key. And like, so and then like Ricky Dean Logan, we just brought up Ricky, Suze Lanier also, and David, actually all three were solo. So they had an added challenge where...
To figure out a way to restrain themselves by themselves?
Correct.
Jeez, that's tough.
Right? And they're dealing with the cat. Like, how blessed was I? My husband, I'm going, you know, okay, if Joshua's like, okay, I need more lighting on your face, my husband can come and move the LED lights, right?
Right.
So poor Suze Lanier, God bless her, she is damn good. I have to shout out. She's so creative. She's a great director, by the way, everyone, just so you know. She directed me. I was so blessed in 2012 to star in her music video, Watch What You Ask For. It was Suze, it was Michael Berryman, so the two stars of the original Hills Have Eyes, and me, and we did a music video, Watch What You Ask For. You can find it online. In fact, you can find it on brookelewis.com, my website, under videos. It's something I'm so proud of, but she like wrote it, directed it, edited it herself. She is a force to be reckoned with. So I had no doubt, and again, that's why we cast the people we cast, and also based on Joshua's, you know, creative story. But we had to cast uber professionals who knew how to like conquer this, because it was hard.
Yeah, I'm finding myself like, I mean, we talked about it earlier. The podcast is coming up on its 200th episode. We've technically already recorded more than 200 episodes, and we have 2 other podcasts. So it's kind of old hat now. And 2 days ago, we recorded our first video content. And it's the whole, I never thought that would be an issue. And you're being a little bit of the sound guy and a little bit of the camera guy. And you're trying to make sure the people who are there 15 minutes ahead of time, and then you have the people who are last minute like, I don't think I'm going to make it. And I really kind of enjoy learning stuff on the fly like that, and I feel like online content has opened it up to everyone. It doesn't matter what you are into. You can kind of cobble together something. And I go back and listen to the first couple episodes of this podcast, and they're terrible. They're so bad. The equipment's bad. So after Monday, our recording, I'm kind of been sitting there going like, I don't know if it's great, but then I'm like, it's our first. I have to it'll get better. And so it's a weird time, like entertainment wise.
It is, Andy. And again, like I said, with every choice, there's a consequence. And I do want to say this based on what you're talking about. And look how I heard you say, you go back to your very first few podcasts, and it was like a little bit amateurish, probably, respectfully.
Oh, it was bad.
Exactly. I want to be respectful. And then now, like, you've got it on lock, and I can attest to that. Like we were talking about it beforehand. I mean, you're just so professional, and I love what you're doing. And I love that you're targeting artists of all kinds, from all over the world. And it's amazing. And it's so not the traditional, I've probably done thousands of podcasts in my career, and it's just not the traditional thing. And I'm loving every minute of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Acknowledging you. That being said, one thing I am a snob about, and I'm a stickler for, and I say it over and over again, and I mentor young people with this, whatever we choose to do creatively, I believe this. I don't care if you're doing it for $1 or $1 million. I believe, and yes, let me say this, because I have produced and raised money for micro budget films and $2 million films in my career. And yes, we all know, and let's be honest about it. If I have $2 million to play with to make a movie or a streaming series, it's a hell of a lot easier in many ways. And you have many more opportunities and options, right? Even digitally, especially digitally. However, I really believe if it's $10 or $1 million, you have a choice to be a professional. Creatives out there, I don't care what arena you're in, you can choose. You can choose to study. You can choose to take classes. In fact, now I just keep bringing this up. Like, there are so many amazing free courses online. There are, whatever arena you're in, watch the experts, study, learn. You can do it professionally. You really can.
Yeah, it's so one of the things that I was very apprehensive about was lighting it well. So I was on YouTube, like looking up videos, like how do people who have YouTube shows light these things, and what kind of things should I be looking out for? And so, it's that combination of trying it, but even in school and science class, they teach you about chemistry, but then they set up the lab so you can learn by doing. And that was kind of my jam. Like, I am definitely a learn by doing kind of person. But yeah, you absolutely have to go back and check the resources, because people have already screwed up in the way you're going to screw up, and you can not do it that way.
Absolutely. So I have to ask, while we're on the subject of learning and while doing, have you, like when you first started, or even more recently, have you ever had, and you don't have to say names, have you ever had guests that, like, and I know this to be true, that like it's like pulling teeth to get them to talk and to express and so you're like drowning on your end?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Tell me one. Tell me one, Andy. I'm turning the tables.
I will never name names, because we have standing rules, and it's, you can always praise by the person's name, but if it's something negative about a person or a business, it's this place or this guy.
Yep.
But we actually did a couple live recordings about a year or so ago. We did like a little talk about starting a podcast and what went into it and how we got to where we are. And we were in Rhode Island at the time. So I set up a couple of interviews. And when we started, the first thing I did was like, I'm going to have friends on that I know talk.
it'll solve a lot of problems. And then as you expand that, you start to, and now it's almost exclusively people I don't know. And
Right.
so we booked two groups, and one of them was amazing. It was 3 guys. They're phenomenal. They played music for us. Just a really, really good time. And the other guy, I don't know whether he was nervous or he was quiet. He was a guitarist. And it was probably one of our shorter episodes just because I couldn't, every answer was, oof, that's a tough question. But they wouldn't elaborate, and it was just like, we're not getting anywhere. And it's probably one of the few times where not planning questions bit me in the ass, because I didn't usually, you'll say something, I will kind of go from there. And I like it that way. It's very casual. And I feel like we talk about what you want to talk about that way. And this guy wasn't elaborating on anything, so I couldn't then go, oh, that sounds like a cool club that you played in, tell me about that, or that sounds like a weird situation, tell me about that. It was just like, wow, that's a really tough question, I've never thought about it.
Oh.
And then I'd be like, so yeah, it happens.
But here's my question. Didn't you learn a ton from that experience?
Oh yeah. You definitely learn more from doing poorly than you do from doing great. That's 100%. There's the I'm never doing that again kind of thing. But yeah, failure teaches you a lot.
Yes, mistakes. I try to look at it like maybe rephrase it in your brain, like instead of failure, it's just a mistake, it's a mishap, and you can always change it.
I actually guested on who is now a friend's podcast, and we were talking about that, and I said something about failure, and she kind of said the same thing. And I'm like, I don't mind using the word failure, because I feel like if I use it, I become more comfortable doing it.
Good.
So then I don't have to be like, oh, I didn't do it wrong, it was a mistake. I can now look and go, whew, that was terrible, let's not do that again. So
that's good.
It's kind of like embracing it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's whatever works for you. Like I always say that, like, don't think about it, feel it. And if a term, if a situation, if a word feels right for you, then it is right for you.
Right. And it doesn't define you or what you're doing next. So even if I failed at a particular interview, that doesn't define, I'm not a failure. And I said this to someone recently. I'm like, I've played baseball. It doesn't make me a baseball player.
See, but let me say this then. I feel like you have a healthy self-esteem.
Oh, no.
Well, you're probably healthier than you think, because if you're able to be so self-aware and not be affected by that, like for me as an actress, I mean, I've, when I look at things, I had to actually change my languaging. I used to say I'm such a failure, and if I've been screen tested for a TV series and I'm down to the top 3 actresses and I don't book it, I've like spiraled into the abyss, and I'm like, I'm a failure, I'm a loser. I don't do it as much anymore because it's just part of my job.
Right.
And I don't personalize it as much. But when I used to look at it like I'm such a failure, it was not healthy for me. So I just look at it like, okay, I made a mistake, or someone was more suited for it. I just try to like frame it differently. But again, that's for me. So I actually do think if you're able to look at something and go, I really failed at that, but it's okay, and I can do better next time or do something different, then that's pretty healthy, Andy.
Yeah. But I mean, that's also one of those, like, we each have our own triggers. So there are things that, set me off to a day of depression that probably you would be like, I don't even know why you're upset by that. But, you're right. You have to find what works for you and follow that through to the end. And if it doesn't go awry, whether it's a mistake, a misstep, a failure, even if don't blame someone else. I was going to say, even if blaming someone else helps you through it, but don't do that.
Yeah, don't. Take responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's actually one thing that really pisses me off and frustrates me so much about artists, is a lot of times we don't take responsibility for our own choices or our mistakes or even our work, and that I see so many people put the blame on other people when things go wrong for them. And I do. I think, because artists, everything is so personal. We take our work, as actors, for God's sakes. I mean, everything is so personal. It's like, okay, well, it had to be. If I didn't book the role, it had to be because I'm not skinny enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not, my acting sucks. Like, it's so hard not to personalize it. And maybe it's better to just take responsibility. I try to do that. I go, okay, you know what? Maybe either I could do a better job next time, like we said, or I just get to the point where I'm like, you know what? It wasn't meant to be for me. It was meant to be for the gal that booked it. That's it. Simple.
And it's so when you're doing something creative, regardless of what it is, whether you're making a hamburger or you're doing a painting or acting, it's hard not to take it personal because, we all put our, blood, sweat, and tears into what we're working on. And then someone's like, I don't like it. And even if they have a good reason for not liking it, I remember, so we also hang art for local businesses, and I showed business owner, this one phenomenal painter, Stuart Adams, just does amazing work. And I showed her this one piece and she goes, I don't like it. I'm like, how do you not like that? And she goes, it reminds me of a place in California that used to smell really bad.
There you go.
So it's one of those, it has nothing to do with the artist.
There you go.
So it's so hard not to take it personal, but it's usually, it's that great saying, it has nothing to do with you. Like, it's not you.
100%. I share this sometimes. I've shared it only a couple of times, I think, but I think it's just so funny. I remember I was really young, and it was a great lesson. Like, I was really young in New York, and I was up for an indie film and got like a call back, and then had to go to the director. And I thought I crushed my audition, and I will never forget, the director looked at me at the end, and I was smiling, and I thought he was going to say, great job. And he said, Brooke, I want to be honest with you. I said, what? And he said, you did a great job. He said, I cannot hire you. You look so much, I think it was, if I remember, you look and smell like your perfume or whatever. I don't know. That's kind of creepy, but you look and smell like my ex-wife. And I just, and I love that story because I think of it often. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, there's no way, you look so much, you remind me so much of my ex-wife. Like, there's no way I could work with you. And I remember that distinctly, and I'm like, it was soul crushing at the time, but then in hindsight, it's like, wow, okay, so I did a great job in my performance, but the director can't work with me because I remind him of his treacherous ex-wife.
And it's so funny how we all have those weird hang-ups. I mentioned that, I'm a divorced dad, so I'm single, and you go out and you meet people, prior to 6 months ago, you could go out and meet people, and usually it starts off with some basic chit chat, and then you do there's a beautiful woman. I was talking to her, she seemed really interesting, and so then I'm like, oh, my name's Andy, and she goes, oh, my name's Zoe, and I immediately went, okay, this is over. I can't date someone with the same name as my daughter. I'm like, I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, that could be. I could see how that could get creepy.
Yeah, it's just weird. Yeah.
That's great.
So, do you know when Red Room will be out?
So I certainly do not. We are again in serious post-production and trying to perfect it. Again, to elaborate, like literally, I told my director and creator, Josh, like, I am open. If you come to me and you can validate and justify why we need to purchase more, apps and more downloads and more creative stuff to make this amazing. And, he's will not settle for anything less than perfection in his mind. And so we've done this like as we've gone, because we do want to have the proper CGI effects, so it's really, again, I know he's learning. He says he's learning as he goes. I'm certainly learning as I go. I'm not this tech genius. And so we are taking our time. So there's that. Now, I will say an interesting thing that's occurred during this pandemic, for me anyway, which has been incredible. And I keep joking with everyone, Andy, and magazine interviews and stuff, and they're like, why do you think this is happening? I'm like, listen, here's the deal. I'm in Hollywood. All the A-listers, as soon as the pandemic hit in March, packed their shit up, went to their houses remotely.
In Tahiti
Tahiti, Tahoe, even Santa Barbara, and I'm left here. And so I gotta say, the beautiful positivity of this for me in the industry has been, I have had some of the most amazing interviews virtually and stuff that I would not have, as a C-lister here, I joke, but it's true. Like, I would not have had in Hollywood. Like, I've had virtual meetings with huge casting directors who didn't know my name. Like, I had one, and I'm so grateful for this. I had one casting director who, huge, and literally sent me an email after and said, I don't know how I didn't know you before this. I don't know how I didn't know your talent before this. And so that was extraordinary. And so long story long, I've had a couple of incredible virtual meetings with big TV and streaming production companies that would never have transpired had it not been the pandemic, because people have time now to acknowledge your existence. And so fingers crossed, it'll be a while. I don't foresee it being out until next year, maybe now, but we're hopeful and things are looking good. And I mean, it's weird. It really is, but we're so diligent in post. Another shout out, I have to shout out to a TV pilot and streaming series that I acted in and also produced and executive produced with Mark Klebanoff. He created a show titled Stripped that we were in pre-production and production all fall of last year, and we took the month of December, went up to Reno, Nevada, and filmed this up in Reno, Nevada, and it's a comedy drama, and it's a streaming series, Stripped, that I got to play one of the leads in with the amazing Casper Van Dien, for all you Starship Trooper fans.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So he's the lead, he's the star, he plays Chris Cameron, and it was created by Mark Klebanoff and the late Christophe St. John, if there are any soap opera star fans, ladies listening, men too. But he was a very famous soap star actor, just wonderful human being, and he had passed away and the year prior, or actually February of 2019, I don't even know what year I'm in anymore. And so they had started creating this TV pilot idea prior to Christophe St. John's passing. And so Klebanoff wanted to bring it to fruition. So he and I and our other partner and the other star of the show, Frank Kruger, and Jessica Morris, Jenny Wenger, Louis Mandylor from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Dat Fan, Last Comic Standing, Larry Hinkin, Home Alone, and the list goes on. Susan Lanier Brown, we put in it again. So many, Essie Perry, just wonderful, wonderful actors. And we all were fortunate enough to go up and film that. So that being said, we spent a lot of the pandemic in post-production with that as well. And it's now, that one is actually finalized in post, and Mark Klebanoff is diligently pitching it to all of the TV networks, streaming networks. So we're hoping, so that actually should be out will be out before Red Room. So fingers crossed we'll know soon about the distribution for that. It's really, really a fun, sweet, cute piece, and we've just been again, just to rattle off another shout out, and this is actually good because you'll be one of the first to hear it. We just had a release with a film we shot a couple years back with the same team. Why I bring it up, Mark Klebanoff wrote it with Michael Walton, super talented actor, he stars in it, and we went to Holland, Michigan years back and shot that. And again, for all the filmmakers or aspiring filmmakers, things don't always go initially as you plan. That I can promise you. We all know that that's just life, right? You're shaking your head at me, it's just life. And so we had gotten an original deal with MTI for The Morning. It's titled The Morning. It is a beautiful, heartfelt, kind of sad, about life, love, romance, with a drama, with a sci-fi twist, supernatural twist, titled The Morning. It is now on Tubi TV. So we just released less than a month ago, 3 weeks ago, end of July. 3 weeks ago on Tubi TV. So everybody can check that out for free on Tubi TV. And so we're excited about this release because originally it was MTI and we had video TV on demand a couple of years ago, but it just never got the right eyeballs. So we now have these streaming opportunities. So, as producers, we're all behind the scenes now negotiating all these new deals. But this one is amazing. Also stars Michael Walton, Louis Mandylor, Larry Hankin, the same kind of team. Dominique Swain, who's amazing, and Peter Dobson, and just tremendous actors. It's a heartfelt piece. Everybody check that out. So that came out. So, we have just been working behind the scenes. Another shout out, also to TV, but you can also find it on Amazon Prime. We just left TV on Demand, which is a comedy that I'm super proud of, that I had nothing to do with producing, but was part of the process for 7 years or something, when they were trying in pre-production, trying to get the right people to make this film, and they did. Shout out to Drew McInerney and Half New Year, which was also written and produced by Georgia Manides and directed by Tom Marash, produced by Zach Block. Pierce Cook DP, and just an incredible cast. This indie film, everybody check it out. It just released on Tubi TV. It's free. So half New Year comedy drama. Drew McEnany stars in it. We've got Shanley Caswell, wonderful actress in NCIS New Orleans, The Conjuring, Rome Flynn from Everything, How to Get Away with Murder, and all the Tyler Perry movies, and Ashley Platts and Amy Paffrath, and Bo Youngblood's the star, and John Iorardi, and Matt Schulte, and Rebecca Vinagro, and I'm going to go on and probably forget people, but I try to shout out to everyone, and I'm off the cuff here. So such a heartfelt, like, throwback to the sort of 80s, early 90s, not 80s vibe, but like 90s, like that era when I first started out in New York, when I was young, like right out of college, and those little heartfelt indies from the Brothers McMullen to cut to like Napoleon Dynamite and Swingers, and which had a bigger budget, but it's just a film I'm so proud of, and I love my role, Pam DeLuca from South Philly, where I'm originally from. So check out Half New Year, everyone.
And I love Philly, I gotta say.
You do? Do you go
yeah.
for steaks?
No. So my mom was originally from just outside of Philly. My grandmother lived in Flourtown.
No, where outside Philly was your mom? Flourtown?
Yeah, adjacent to that. I'm not 100% sure where that house was, because when I went to that house, I was real little. But we would go down and visit my grandmother in Flourtown, and I was down there. Was it last 2 years ago to the Muter Museum, and I was supposed to go down again this year because I got a friend who lives down there, to go to the state penitentiary and the Muter Museum again, and it's just there's lots of cool stuff going on there.
It's a great little city. It's a great, it's a mini New York, a lot of culture, a lot of museums, a lot for all the artists that are listening. Get to Philly. It is really like a mini New York.
They should go to Boston first.
Okay.
Check out Plymouth.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, but the Liberty Bells in Philly, come on,
I live 4 blocks from the Plymouth Rock. That's older.
Oh, that's true. I love Boston too. Of course, here in Hollywood, all my friends are either from Philly, New York, Jersey, or Boston. Like, I gravitate toward, the East Coast people. But Philly it really is.
It's a great town.
It's a great town with great restaurants and great museums. The art museum, all the science museums there. Just amazing, and a lot of great little galleries.
Yeah. So you mentioned your website previously. Can we get it again in case someone didn't write down all those movies and stuff? I'm sure it's all there, and they can check out that music video and all that other fun stuff.
Absolutely. First and foremost, definitely go to IMDb. Go hit me up at IMDb, Brooke Lewis Bellas. My official press site is brookelewis.com. Obviously, it was there before I became Brooke Lewis Bellas. brookelewis.com. You can check out videos, photos, all my stuff from TMZ. And then Philly Chick Pictures is my production company. MsVampy.net. You can check out everything Ms. Vampy, and Be You and Be Fearless Life Coach, which, again, I use that in my work now, but a lot of good stuff if you just need some positivity and want to check out my book, Coaching from a Professed Hot Mess, which is online, Barnes & Noble and Amazon. So there you go.
Before we go, how did you get into life coaching?
So that would be another hour show.
All right, give me like an elevator pitch.
I can swap, all right? I can swap. I just thought of something real quick, and I'll get back to that. But when you were talking about Boston, have you watched Hightown?
No.
It made me think of the accent. Oh, dude.
I don't have an accent.
No, it made me think of like a, Boston, Rhode Island kind of accent and stuff.
Yeah.
No, you actually don't. But Hightown, check it out on Stars. It's so good. It's shot in Cape Cod, but everybody has like that Boston accent. Anyway, maybe think of Boston, but check it out. So how did I get into coaching? Very long story long. 2 different answers, or 3 different answers, to be honest. And that's how my life kind of crazily works. I had made a living acting, producing from New York to LA for many, many years. And honestly, when the economy crashed in 2008, I was afloat until about 2010, beginning of 2011. And so I knew at that point that all my investors by 2011 had pulled out of my production company, Philly Chick Pictures. They had pulled out of all our films, and we were in trouble. And it was going to be the first time in my adult life that I wasn't going to be able to survive, as an actress. And I was a single woman in a very expensive city here. And so that was one catalyst. The other catalyst was that I had done, so this is important to hear real quickly. So I had done all my Ms. Vampy series in like 2008, 2009, and they were a success. And then what inspired me to create, and this you'll love, Andy, because of your teen daughter and your story. So, so after the Ms. Vampy was a hit, then I decided a lot of the production companies wanted me to make her sort of very sexual and sexy. And I was like, no, you know what? I have a mission just for me. I don't judge, but for me, I have a greater purpose and mission here. And I'm grateful for, after doing Broadway, Tony and Tina's Wedding, and network sitcoms like Quintuplets on Fox, I'm so blessed that, somehow when I did Kinky Killers with Charles Durning and Michael Pare on Showtime, I became a known, quote unquote, scream queen in the horror genre, which I am blessed for that moniker every day. It was bestowed upon me and I embraced it. Moving it along, I was doing a lot of sexy photo shoots and stuff, and I decided I had a greater mission. So I took Ms. Vampy and my brand into the direction where I wanted to help teen girls and tap into their insecurities that I still have as a grown-ass woman. So I did a show. I want to point this out because it's important for the listeners who need inspiration. So when I chose to do that, the catalyst was we had created, my partners and I, now a TV series, but then a screenplay titled Vamp It Out. And it was all about positive messages for teen girls. Well, when I was pitching in Hollywood to a lot of the TV networks, a lot of the movie production companies, they would say to me, but Brooke, you're a famous scream queen. You're like the new Elvira. Like, how could you possibly be in the horror world and have positive messages for teen girls? So I'm like, seriously? I mean, I've never done nudity. I've never been killed in a film. Like, are you going to judge me like that, Hollywood? So you know what? I'm going to show you. And that's been such a big catalyst and part of my career and inspiration, Andy, is, and listeners, when I'm pushed against that wall and backed against that wall, I'm going to show you. So I went out and did a talk show, Ms. Vampy's Tween Talk, for teen girls. Hired a casting director, shout out to Allison Buck, hired a cast of teen girls, and we did like a web series for teen girls with positive messages. And so that was my way of proving to Hollywood that I could be Ms. Vampy, a comedic mobster Brooklyn vampire, and help teen girls. Well, that being said, segue to we did the show, we prepped all of 2010, prepped a shot beginning of 2011. When that happened, and then at the same time I was running out of money when the economy crashed, I went, okay, I need to find a support gig. What would inspire me? I'm getting older now. Like, what would excite me? What would I find inspiration in? I took my ass, went down to San Diego after 2 college degrees when I was young, went back to school to the Life Purpose Institute, took off of acting for a year, and got my full board certification as a life coach. And originally I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this because it's going to be great for my Ms. Vampy brand and great to have that sort of certification and confirmation of validation to like why I have to prove myself again, that I am, educated enough and worthy enough to be positive for teen girls as Ms. Vampy and as a horror actress. And I originally, set out to use it in my work, in my creative work, which I do now. Yeah. But there came a time where I was like, okay, I need to make more money and survive as a single woman in Hollywood. And I launched Be You and Be Fearless Life Coach, and did incredibly well, and did the talk show circuit and had shows developed around me as a coach for years. And I'm so grateful. And so now, then I got married, and I'm blessed, and, I still work my butt off, but now I'm using it again after I authored my books, and, I'm using it again in my work, my coaching, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And what a great ending to our conversation, Andy, for the listeners, because you just never know. I always say, like, God, higher power, whatever we believe in, like, laughs when we're making plans, that old cliche. And it's so true. You just don't know. Like, none of us knows in this pandemic where we're going next. And that's like really scary. But at the same time, it's beautiful because from nothing, we can create anything and everything.
Brooke, I don't know how to end any better than that. So I think that's where we're going to call it. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. You're welcome back anytime. And I don't know how to say thank you. It was phenomenal.
I appreciate that. So you're wonderful. And I am so grateful to be a guest. And again, I keep up the great work, Andy and the crew. Like, I love what you guys are doing. I love the art and the heart of your show. It's amazing. And You know, I'm coming on the booze show next.
Yeah, we'll have to get you on Bar Talk. And
Let's have bourbon. I'll go through my bar cart here, and it'll be great.
yeah, it's we are definitely. I live in a town that it's hard to stay sober in. We got 4 breweries, a distillery, and 2 wineries, and about 40 different restaurants. So it's a place. It's the only place we can record Bar Talk, I feel like. But yeah, we would definitely love to have you on that. So we'll have to.
I would love it. Yeah, totally different side of me. And listen, listeners, I mean, there's a reason that I'll never be a skinny Hollywood actress. I like to eat. We like to have a drink on the weekends. I love my wine. I'm a tequila junkie, and let's do it.
Nice. My new thing lately has been old fashions. That's what I've been.
You and my husband.
Yeah, I don't know why. Just all of a sudden, I'm like, these are great.
That's what he. Oh, we'll talk on the show. That's what he says. I'm making him. I bought the muddler again. That's another spoiler alert. I bartended in college. Oh yeah,
nice.
Bartending school. I did, but I bought the muddler to do and I bought the maraschino cherries and
the really good ones.
Yeah.
What do they call that? You know what one you're talking about? Yeah, I got the ice tray that makes the giant round ice cubes and.
Yes, but that's so weird. I think because we stocked up during the pandemic on bourbon and scotch and stuff, and so you will not find a shortage of makers in our house, and so he's been into the old fashioned. I'll drink tequila and soda, and he'll grab make an old fashioned. It's weird.
Nice. Well, again, thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. You can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or on Instagram at Inebri-art6. You can email us at Inebri-art@yahoo.com. And make sure you listen to the other podcasts on the Inebri-art Podcast Network, including Bar Talk, Old Colony Cast, Retro Redoctopus, America's Hometown Horror Podcast, and our newest one, Theme Park Legends, a podcast about working at theme parks. What else? And we'll catch you again next time.